Okay, greetings, brothers and sisters. This is mostly about the hypocrisy of the Golden State Warriors, which I've been thinking about since I made the video yesterday. One of my viewers sent me this. I covered this woman also who was using a vibrator on the beach and got arrested. It's kind of a funny video, but it's not as funny when she committed suicide 8 months later. Christina Revel's Glick death. Woman arrested for using vibrator on beach committed suicide 8 months later after downward spiral of drink and drugs. Body cam footage. 8 months after her arrest, she was found dead of self-inflicted gunshot wound to the head. Her family says Tybee Island beach incidents did not lead to her death, but instead she fell into alcohol and drug abuse. Well, it definitely contributed, right? It wasn't helpful. The sick part about this is the video I watched yesterday, I guess it was put up 3 weeks ago. So somebody who, wanted this thing to go viral again, I guess maybe it went viral because this was an incident that happened in 2021. I thought it happened this past summer or something like that, or, later because, you can go to the beach in Georgia in September, or even October, because it's a warmer climate. But she was already dead for years before they posted this video that now has 6 million views on YouTube. And there's no, people are just taking advantage of, basically a tragedy, right? Something isn't funny if the person who was in the video ends up committing suicide, right? Like it ceases to be funny. And if you knew that ahead of time before watching it, YouTube shouldn't be promoting it. YouTube's promoting that video. YouTube has recommended it to me. I don't watch those types of videos. I don't watch body cam videos. I don't even get recommended body cam videos by YouTube. They're not something that I see in my, whatever it is, the feed. But YouTube recommended this video. I have no idea why they did. And it's, basically ends in a tragedy. And, it's just scummy all the way around. YouTube is so freaking holier than thou with their community guidelines stuff and all the rest of it. And they're recommending a video like this when, the outcome is suicide. It's no longer something that should be going viral or being, laughed at because it's a tragic story, right? It's just, despicable. Warriors Draymond Green suspended indefinitely after blow to Nurkic's head. And what they want him to do is get counseling and meet certain criteria. And that should have happened in the first place, right? Because the guy has been a nightmare for years. And like I said, I'm a Golden State Warriors fan. I watch a lot of their games. And, I like the way they play basketball. But the organization is a fail on this. And even you could say Steph Curry and his teammates, the whole thing. And I'm going to get into the hypocrisy here and all of it, right? So, they are making it so that he has to go and fix what's wrong with them, which should have been done in the first place because the guy's been a disaster for years, bullying people. He admitted to bullying people in a podcast. He says, there's guys in the league and now he's friendly with, I used to bully them. And now he comes up to them and they're kind of, standoffish. And he admitted to bullying these guys. And now he was getting older and more friendly with these players. But I'll show you a recent game where he's, bullying a guy, right? Or just trying to provoke a fight in the Minnesota Timberwolves game before he choked the other guy out. Like he was already on the edge before that.
As you know, I'm not one to apologize for things I meant to do, but I do
Wait, you don't apologize for things you meant to do?
apologize to you, sir, because I didn't intend to hit him.
I do apologize to him because it was an accident. I only apologize for accidents. Yeah, if I did something on accident, I apologize. But if I do something on purpose, I don't apologize for that. And then he has the audacity to say this.
But I do apologize to you, sir, because I didn't intend to hit him. I sell calls with my arms. I don't fall or to sell a call, not a flopper.
He sells calls with his arms. He didn't intend to hit him. He just didn't. He sells calls with his arms. He's not a flopper. He doesn't lay down and flop on the ground. He just flails his arm wildly to sell calls. He's an actor, but just not a flopper. I want to sell a call. I want to make it look like I exaggerated was happening. So I flopped my arms around. I swung my arm around, and just where his head was, and it was an accident, right?
So I was just selling the car because he was grabbing me and pulling my hip back. So I spun away, and unfortunately, I hit him.
Unfortunately, he hit him.
Unfortunately, bad luck.
It was just bad luck. I mean, I'm not a flopper, and I was just swinging my arms wildly around where the guy's head was, and there was some reason it connected, right? It's just bad luck, like I mean, it's the bad luck of physics. Like I don't know, like you swing your arms around wildly where people are, and for some reason it connects with a person. It's just bad luck. You wildly throw your arm around right where the guy's head is at, and it connects. I mean, it's like when they do boxing or MMA, when they throw punches or kicks at a guy's head and they connect with the guy's head. It's just bad luck. I mean, you throw your arm around right where some guy's head is and it hits him. I mean, what am I going to do? Like, how did I know that was going to happen? I didn't know I was going to be so unlucky that day. So this is a 60-minute piece, Warriors coach Steve Kerr shaped by tragedy. Now, Steve Kerr, his dad was an ambassador, right? So somebody who was a U.S. ambassador, like as a real, prestigious position in the government, in the world of, intelligence community stuff, UN stuff, right? All those things. And his dad was murdered by alleged, terrorists. And Steve Kerr's been a real shill for the agenda. He's somebody who's been on the wrong side of all these things. He's a, government shill. I mean, someone who, these ambassadorships are given to people who are part of the club, right? His dad was part of the club. Steve Kerr's had a successful basketball career starting as a guard at Arizona University. He played as a role player at San Antonio and with the Chicago Bulls, won a number of championships with Michael Jordan and these other, the San Antonio Spurs when they were winning championships. He went into administration and was a successful GM. And then the Golden State Warriors, right when they were going to sort of take that next step, their coach Mark Jackson, who was recently fired by ESPN, he had an adversarial relationship with the ownership of the Golden State Warriors. He had like an us against them mentality and like a player's coach. And they didn't like that, so they fired him. Steve Kerr came in, and they won the championship the next year. And, like I said, he's just a part of the club. And this is what he was saying here.
And I was born in Beirut. We lived in Egypt and France, Tunisia. So
there's his dad, right? His dad was a player. His dad was an ambassador. This is his family, wealthy family. So I need to make a correction here. Dad wasn't an ambassador. I found out about this. I'm not sure where I was in high school or something. I don't know when this happened. When I heard that Steve Kerr's dad had been killed in Beirut, maybe based in my age, I thought a guy who was a president of American University there in Beirut. He grew up in Beirut. He was born there, and he was working, as a activist, right? One of these activists. He was active in the Arab world and the Arab-Israeli conflict. He wrote books about it. These things, right? So he's a professor who became the president of the university, and someone that they're saying that Iran and these other countries targeted, right? He was in Lebanon. He was whatever these organizations are there. But it was a political assassination, that he was some sort of a player. Maybe he's connected to some intelligence community. I mean, who knows what? Maybe he was seen as a spy, right? And so, there's some connection there. He was a player, a part of a global effort here, right? In the Middle Eastern region of the world, a very contentious place.
Assassins gunned down a prominent American civilian in Lebanon this morning, Malcolm Kerr.
Lebanon's civil war today claimed another American life. The victim this time, however, was a scholar.
A pro-Iranian Shiite Muslim terrorist group, Islamic Jihad, has claimed responsibility for killing Dr. Kerr.
When he was 18, he was playing college ball in Arizona, and his father, Malcolm Kerr, 52 years old, was stepping off an elevator at the American University of Beirut, walking to his office, and he was shot twice in the back of the head and killed.
This is a significant storyline in Steve Kerr's, whatever he is. He seems like some sort of a inside chill, possibly CIA asset guy. So, this is the violence that this guy was surrounded with, right? So then the Uvalde, Texas thing happened. The recent, whatever happened there in Uvalde, Texas. And Steve Kerr came out and said this stuff.
Since we left shoot-around, 14 children were killed 400 miles from here, and a teacher. And in the last 10 days, we've had elderly black people killed in a supermarket in Buffalo. We've had Asian churchgoers killed in Southern California, and now we have children murdered at school. When are we going to do something? I'm tired. I'm so tired of getting up here and offering condolences to the devastated families that are out there. I'm so tired of I'm sorry. I'm tired of the moments of
this is a performative.
silence. Enough. There's 50 senators right now who refuse to vote on H.R. 8, which is a back.
So then he wants to talk about gun control, right? So he's very emotional, and he wants gun control for, these tragic events. So I can't show you this whole clip. I'm getting this from a video that was posted on TNT, which is Turner, which is CNN, right? Which is, controlled by at least partially by the intelligence community. This very sappy, emotive. He gets into his dad at some point in this press conference. So he ends the press conference here.
Washington, who refused to even put it to a vote, despite what we, the American people, want. They won't vote on it because they want to hold on to their own power. It's pathetic. I've had enough.
Yeah, he's had enough. It's pathetic. It was totally performative, like he made himself mad.
So I'll tell you briefly my story. My dad was killed by gun violence when I was 18. He was in Beirut, Lebanon. He was the president of the American University there, so it was a terrorist attack. So I'm not going to sit here and say, if we could change some gun laws in America, that would stop all gun violence or stop terrorism overseas. Obviously, it wouldn't.
So, he's using his personal tragedy as a way to, pitch for this political issue, right? Had no problem with the bloop. The Warriors they pushed Andrew Wiggins into getting the bloop, and he ignored Draymond Green, which we'll get into here. Like his being a bully and violent. But, for this particular issue, he's rolling out his dad's story. Then there was this.
I am Steve Kerr from the Golden State Warriors, and I challenge you to give to Live Free. Clock's ticking. We need your help. Thank you.
So that's End Gun Violence. Live free. Live free from violence. There are 4,000 deaths caused by gun violence in 2022. There are proven evidence based on gun violence reduction strategies. This is, they're pushing for money to end violence and gun violence, right? Then these were a number of the warriors here.
Together,
we can
end gun violence.
Together, we can end gun violence.
Okay, so there was that. Then, not on our ground. This is another working together for safe, inclusive communities, and this was Golden State Warriors backing this. They're involved in a lot of here. It says Golden State Warriors are proud to stand with Not Our Town's movement to stop bullying, hate, and violence for all.
A lot of things get said on the court.
But what gets said on the court stays on the court. Life isn't a game.
And what you say in real life
Wait, who's that guy? Who's that guy here?
What you say in real life
affects people in a real way.
Whether it's online
Or in person.
at the office.
or at school.
Physical, verbal, and cyberbullying is a real problem.
Is it a real problem? Because your culture and the Warriors culture has promoted and condoned it and allowed it and celebrated it even.
are no refs.
And no chance just leave it on the court.
Bullying should never be tolerated.
Wait, what did you say?
Bullying should never be tolerated.
Bullying should never be tolerated. Exactly.
Not on our ground.
Not in our town.
Join the movement.
They had an anti-bullying campaign way back when. Not in our town, but they were saying basically it was okay to do this stuff on the court. Oh, this stuff happens on the court, whatever said on the court, we leave it on the court, these things, right? But you can't promote bullying and condone bullying and enable a bullier and promote a bullier and Draymond Green as a team, as an organization, and then come out with these ads, right? And then there's what happened in their own practice facility, which was basically an assault and, certainly bullying, right? Certainly something where, people are talking smack, which is happening. They say it's okay to say that stuff on the court. In real life, what's happening on the court isn't real life, right? But this thing that happened with Jordan Poole. So here's Draymond Green. I showed you this yesterday. And he's talking. Jordan Poole's over here, and Draymond Green's talking to him, right? Draymond Green is physically bigger than him, older. He was Jordan Poole's mentor. And, they're talking to each other. So he's obviously triggered. He goes up to him, and he gets in his face. Jordan Poole shoves him away, and he jumps and punches him. And, there's a lot of talk about the Warriors players are all watching. No one did anything. No one came up and said anything to him like that was effed up. The Warriors didn't suspend him or discipline him in any way. That was a physical assault. He took it from them both talking. Draymond Green talks about how, anybody saying that when you're going to talk boop, and both of these guys are talkers. Jordan Poole's a disaster. They trade him away, sort of a cancer on the team. Bad attitude, and he's doing horribly for his new team. They got rid of the guy, but he was, he had quality skills, just a negative person, selfish and whatever. And Draymond Green did that, wrecked the season, admitted he wrecked the season, admitted he couldn't be the leader he needed to be because he'd lost respect in the locker room with the other young guys. Jordan Poole had friends on the team, and the Warriors chose not to discipline him at all. He also had a verbal dispute with Kevin Durant, which we'll get into in a bit, which forced Kevin Durant to leave the team. And, he was critical of the ownership taking, suspending him for that, right? But they didn't do anything when this bullying, violent thing happened. That's a felony. That's an assault. He just assaulted this guy, right? The guy wanted to press charges. And a lot of talk was about how this was leaked, who leaked this, and why did they leak it? Because it, was a scandal. And when they didn't react to this, when they didn't address the bullying, Draymond Green realized the Golden State Warriors were a bunch of bonus holes, and he could do whatever he wanted. And he consistently acted out all of last year, getting technicals, arguing with the refs, getting in physical violence, his physical disputes. He stepped on a player in a playoff game, was only suspended one game. Probably should have been. He stepped and jumped off the guy's chest, which I showed you in the video yesterday. And he did all these things and continued to do them this year when, it was already kind of over for him. It was something that should have been addressed by a team that's anti-bullying and anti-violent, right? But where's this? They're allowing this to be perpetrated, and this guy to be an example of this. Jordan Poole, they list him at 194 pounds, but he probably doesn't weigh that. 6'4", 190 pounds. And Draymond Green is 6'6", 230 pounds. And just physically bigger and stronger. You can see the difference in strength and by the positions they play. Jordan Poole plays a guard. Draymond Green plays forward/center. And so he's, bigger, stronger guy. Older, more worldly, more mature. And this guy was, again, somebody he was a mentor to at one point. And they were talking trash, and Draymond Green, reacted in this way. And the Warriors did nothing to, they just enabled this guy for years. He was their enforcer. They promoted, these behaviors. They condoned them. There was a thing that happened with Kevin Durant. So at the end of the game, Kevin Durant got mad at Draymond Green for not passing the ball. Here's Draymond Green here. They got into a verbal altercation on the sidelines. Draymond Green called him a bitch and other things, like he crossed the line. Their relationships, Draymond Green was the guy who got him to come to Golden State in the first place, recruited him. And then he lost it and said, we don't need you here. We won without you, all these things. And Kevin Durant ended up leaving the next season, right? They suspended him for one game, for that altercation. And then he brought Kevin Durant on his podcast and said that the administration shouldn't have gotten involved in this dispute. But Draymond Green has no sense of that this is, this is not just his workplace, right? This is a place where he is an employee of an organization and a team and also a league in which other people are employees, and he's doing treatment that would get you fired anywhere else, right? If Draymond Green talked to anybody in his workplace the way he talked to Kevin Durant, he'd be fired. I mean, this was years and years ago. This has gone on forever. Punching in a fellow employee gets you fired, maybe even prison time, right? It's a felony. It's an assault. And he had multiple assaults. He's committed like 5 or 6 felonies and thug-like behavior, and he says he refuses to apologize, and this is the role he's supposed to play for this team. And this guy, Steve Kerr, has condoned it, this anti-violent guy whose dad was assassinated, and he's all in tears about what happened to strangers in Texas, and yet he's allowing and condoning what's happening here, right, with Draymond Green and these, altercations. And so they're frauds. They're a hypocrite. The organization, they say they're anti-violence and anti-bullying when they've had, a bully who's been a big part of their success. So this is Draymond Green's son back when they were wearing masks, and he's handing things to, he was working with the sideline guys. The Warriors have a very inclusive, cute kid. The Warriors have a very inclusive, they allow their families to come to the facilities, and they've created a family-like environment. Like, it's one of the positive things about the organization, right? And his kid's involved in these things. Here he is giving towels, taking towels away. He's doing the job of they used to do on the sidelines, right? And so, they've had these kids, be a part of that family, be a part of the organization, be in meetings and, other things, like just a very relaxed environment. And Draymond Green has liked the culture there, been a part of it, and he's, all of these things, right? He says that he does these things for his teammates and the organization, and this is his role to play, like some sort of defender of an organization that's had a lot of success and has a lot of privilege. Bringing your families to work and having the parents and grandparents or whatever, the parents of the players, be a part of that. And Jordan Poole's family's still pissed at Draymond Green. The dad said he never apologized to them and any of that stuff, right? And so Draymond Green has violated that. Like, his kid's a part of this thing. He's out there behaving in a thug-like way, and out of control. And then for young people and fans, and then he's also a part of the media with a successful podcast. And all of these things, he's not being held accountable for by the organization. So Draymond Green fouled Anthony Edwards, who's another guy who talks a lot of boop. And Draymond Green, this is what Rudy Gobert here. So the guy he's eventually going to choke in the following game. They played this game. The next game, he's ended up going to choke this guy.
He will pick up a foul.
Boop. So first he called Anthony Edwards the N-word, which is, you can't do that at a workplace, a work environment. But basketball players and football players are doing that all the time. Oftentimes they're mic'd up, and so these things are caught on the mic, and at least the fans are hearing it, right? And so they're using racial slurs, and it's a black guy saying to another black guy, so it's of course a little bit different. But they're saying these things, and you can't say those things at a workplace. You just can't, right? Like, this is a place of work. It's part of the problem with the NBA and, allowing the trash talk to go on and these other things, and they could have guidelines for it. They should have guidelines for it, because there's been things that have been said in the past that were clearly crossed the line, and, all of it.
Draymond
You just said, get the F out of here.
Green and Anthony Edwards having a few words. Now, the one thing
He said, what are you going to do about it? He's challenged into a fight.
what's interesting is because the Warriors played it back-to-back, they'll have tomorrow.
He said, stop talking, right? So he's trying to intimidate and bully that guy. And then the following game, he choked his teammate. Okay, so I found some clips from Draymond Green. He's associated with The Volume, which is a some sort of a podcast thing that he does. That has it's connected to, I think, that guy Colin Coward or whatever his name is. They have a number of people that do podcasts associated. They help manage the athletes or the talent or whatever. And he was getting 500,000 views. Then he addressed the smacking of Jordan Poole. He only got 200,000 views. So you see he lost audience, and now he's not posting at all this year. But he was, talked about being in the new media. He talked about what the difference was between the new media and the old media. Just a few little clips here. I'm going to show you this one here.
Ja Morant. I saw Adam Silver speaking. Adam Silver looked crushed. He sounded crushed. I know he is crushed. Because Adam is a player's commissioner. Have been since day one. And so a part of him, I'm sure it's just crushed, because he's come on, man.
So he talks about Joe Dumars, who's his mentor and friend, and Adam Silver, and how they're for the players. And, he's known that, and he still has acted in this way, getting chance after chance and, all these things, right? But then there was this. So Rudy Gobert, the guy he ends up choking, and Draymond Green lost Defensive Player of the Year to Rudy Gobert. And he felt like Rudy Gobert's defense was one-dimensional as a rim protector. He couldn't guard on the perimeter, and he wasn't orchestrating the defense like Draymond Green was. So he felt like he was slighted. And then he talks about Rudy Gobert being soft, but also Rudy Gobert's teammate Kyle Anderson called him a bitch. And Rudy Gobert sort of halfway shoved him, punched him, and was suspended in a pivotal game. And he addresses it here.
I personally think Rudy Gobert is a little on the softer side myself. He gained a little respect from me because he stood up for himself. I've never really seen the guy stand up for himself. Didn't really know if the guy was capable of standing up for himself. He stood up for himself a bit. Unfortunately, doesn't really work.
So he ends up getting, he got suspended. But this was, calling Rudy Gobert soft, and, this is part of the whole, which led to him choking. I mean, this is after he, hit Jordan Poole. And he talked about hitting Jordan Poole in one episode. Draymond Green is big about talking about the new media and in this case, accountability. This is one of his early podcasts. He called Kendrick Perkins the racist derogatory term of the C word, and he was told to apologize by Joe Dumars and other people, and he understood the word differently than the way older generation understood the word, right? But he says this about being a part of the new media.
And that is because this is one thing that when I speak on new media, the number one thing about the new media is accountability. And you can't speak accountability if you can't hold yourself accountable and if you can't be held accountable. And that's what I'm all about. That's what I stand for. So,
I want to make this video because it's based in hypocrisy, right? We live in a violent world. People are violent people, not just physically, but aggressive. And our whole culture is predicated, the idea of the word being soft, being called soft. I grew up as an athlete playing sports, playing basketball. If somebody called you soft, you were supposed to fight them. But then later on, when I started doing the Sajmark meditation and the idea of having a soft heart and being soft-hearted and being, somebody who is sensitive to the environment and other people's concern and things like this and connected to God and being compassionate, being soft was considered a good thing. And I thought about this quite a bit, right? Because living and growing up in America, we've trained to be very aggressive. We have a huge military. Our biggest export is weapons, and our biggest expenditure is military. And it's not about defense. It's never been about defense because we've been aggressive. America's been aggressive in the world. We've taken down leaders and regimes, and and manipulated, all these things. I showed you a clip of all the different countries in South and Latin America that America has changed the leadership and regime change, CIA, doing things like that in Africa, and certainly Libya with Gaddafi and some of these. And then Operation Ajax, where they took down Mossadegh in Iran. We're aggressive people, and we have aggressive video games, and we grew up in aggressive culture. You have athletes, many of them grew up in tough neighborhoods. Many of them had single moms, no dad, no male role models, figures, and things. And they grew up in a lot of violence. A lot of the athletes grew up in violence. Football is a war on the field. It's very violent. It's very, it's a violent game. Bill Russell, the famous basketball, used to say, basketball is a contact sport, and football is a collision sport, right? And, basketball is very physical. And, football is even worse. They put on armor, and they go and they slam into each other. They're weapons. They had to change the rules of engagement because people are getting paralyzed and getting really hurt because of the weapons. The helmet is a weapon, and, these various ways that they were hitting people, and, they had to change. They've constantly had to change the way their violence is conducted, right? Rules of engagement. And then this guy, Ray Rice, and many of these guys have concussions and CTE, and then Ray Rice punches his wife, and he's out of the NFL forever. He's only doing what he's doing in his job. He's trained to do violent things in his job. And so all these do-gooders and these people, they pay lots of money, and they promote all these aggressive acts, and there's always bullies and enforcers on teams and things like this. And then they pretend that, that's okay on the field, but it's not okay in real life. And they come out with these anti-bullying ads and all this crap. Steve Kerr being, part of a political family, and then speaking on these, they've always been on the wrong side of these issues, right? These political issues. And Draymond Green is, been celebrated in his locker room, and he's been the leader of that team. Steph Curry isn't the leader. Draymond Green is. Steph Curry is more mild-mannered person. Draymond Green is the leader, vocal leader. He's the guy who holds other guys accountable, and he has a violent streak and, issues, psychological issues, right? And they've enabled him. The way the Golden State Warriors project themselves and want to be seen. And again, I'm a fan of the organization in terms of player development, the way they play, and various levels of their, whatever they're doing there. But they're in that dilapidated city, San Francisco, and the defunct governor, and people are fleeing that state because of the horrible policies of Gavin Newsom, and there seems to be corporate takeover. There's a $1 billion town that looks like one of those, purposeful smart cities they're building there. They bought off all this farmland, and San Francisco and all these things that they have to do with this agenda, this liberal agenda, and all the tech stuff and the censorship and all those things, and they're a part of that, right? And their organization wants to be this, seen as some sort of a progressive beacon, but they didn't deal with an in-house predator, a guy who realized he was surrounded by bonus holes, and he bullied the general manager. I mean, after he punched Jordan Poole, they gave him a four-year, $100 million deal. They paid him $100 million for the next 4 years of his career, right? I mean, think about that. For punching a guy, and they got rid of the guy he punched. They fired the victim, right? I mean, regardless of what kind of person Jordan Poole is and what kind of leader Draymond Green has been there, this was a felony, and they rewarded the criminal and punished the victim. I call out hypocrisy, and I mean, this is apocalypse now, and I always talk about how I get enjoyment, some kind of, I find it funny when I see empires collapse, and empires always collapse. Dynasties always collapse. These things happen with everybody, right? These sports dynasties, these, whatever it might be. Whatever business dynasty you have, things go south at some point. People, you go up to a high level, and then there's a decline. And watching things break up and fall apart is interesting to me. And like I said, I've watched the Warriors over the years. I've been a fan of the way they play basketball. As a basketball fan and someone who played basketball, it's, admirable of the way that they play and, the stuff that they've been able to do over the years. And other teams play their best against the Warriors. Like when you watch a Warriors basketball game, it's usually a high-quality game where guys will shoot better on the other team than they normally shoot. They'll hit more threes, and it's something where they get up to play the Warriors. They grew up, a lot of these younger players, watching the Warriors Dynasty. And so usually they produce a good quality basketball game. I've talked about things being rigged and things like that. That's not what this video is about. But, there's all those things. But you watch a high-quality product, it's entertaining. And, it's been something where they're going out, like, abysmally, right? Steph Curry's still playing at a high level. Maybe he's even playing better than ever. They got a bunch of young guys that are playing and moving, into better positions. But the guys, the core of the system, Draymond Green has collapsed psychologically, and Klay Thompson has, because they didn't give him a new contract, he isn't getting the money he wants. He's collapsed, he's punking out, right? He's playing horribly. Like in a game, at the end of that game, Draymond Green got thrown out. Klay Thompson was sitting on the bench with 7 points. They're playing a team without, 3 of their starters and maybe their best player in Kevin Durant, and they still end up losing the game. And Draymond Green has a psychological meltdown, and the ship be sinking. And Draymond Green always talks about playing for his teammates, and he really talks about how much he loves Steph Curry and these things. He talks about how he loves the organization, but he's destroying everything around him. Like he's just toxic. He's one of those people, right? He was always, sometimes the way he would act would help the team. Sometimes it would hurt the team, but now it's just hurting the team, right? He has a toxic personality, and you can see it, right? And, they've enabled it. The league and this league that's supposed to be anti-bullying and anti-violence, they've allowed a bully to be on this prominent team and to get away with all kinds of things other players weren't able to get away with, and then let him whine about it on his podcast and post-game interviews, talking about how he's targeted and he's a victim, and they've let him get away with it. Now they're finally saying you need to go get help, which is, he could easily just be thrown out of the league. He'd be fired at if he was working in any other capacity, other than maybe being a soldier or something like that, right? But in terms of, but even that, you can't do this kind of behavior. You have to be disciplined as a soldier. So, these are things he's doing that, and he should end up in jail or prison, right? These are things if he did out, and even the practice thing was not in front of a crowd, and he's committing felonies on live camera and getting away with it and being enabled. Anyways, I got to wrap this one up. Only spirituality will save this world. It's Paul Romano, definitely reporting for the Apocalypse and the Ascension. Everyone have a blessed day and be grateful.